was told you were allowed to have 3 points and no more. So I'll tell you what my 3 points are. First of all, of course, it's Advent. And I'm delighted that St. Mary's has blue vestments. Because Advent is different from Lent. Advent is a time of waiting. It's not so much a time of penitence the way Lent is, but a time of waiting. This year, we've started year C. So my first point is Luke. My second is Nicholas, because it's the feast of St. Nicholas. And my third is So What are the readings telling us this morning? So first, Luke. This year is year C, and we hear about John the Baptist in all 3 years on this second Sunday of Advent. But this year we get Luke's twist on it. Now, Luke, we believe, was a Greek physician. He never met Jesus, but he was a physician. Now, back in those days, they didn't have all kinds of labs and CAT scans and MRIs to tell the physicians what was wrong. So a good physician had to have good listening skills. Luke was a good listener. As a physician, he listened to the stories of those who did know Jesus. And as a physician, he had access to people that normally the other apostles didn't sit down and chat with. So he had access to the women. If you know anything about Middle East culture, even today, men do not chat with women, except their mothers, their daughters, their wives. But Luke was a physician, so he had access. And he listened to the women's stories. He may have met Mary and listened to Mary's story, because it's only in Luke's gospel that we hear about Mary and the angel Gabriel, and Mary journeying to visit her cousin Elizabeth, and Zechariah hearing when he's praying in the temple that his son was to be named John. Our first reading this morning was a little different. It wasn't a psalm. Did you catch that? Our first reading was from the Gospel of Luke. And it was Zechariah's song. He's been silenced, and now his son, he's at the temple, and his son is being circumcised, and he speaks for the first time and says, no, don't name him Zechariah, name him John. The angel told him that. And then he sings this wonderful song of praise about God fulfilling the promise to the people. And says, looks at his son and says, you, my son, are going to be the prophet of the Most High. This is Zechariah talking to his son at his circumcision, our equivalent of a baptism, okay? So it's this year, year C, and throughout this year until next December, you'll be hearing a lot from Luke. In between, you'll hear from some of the other guys, but you'll hear a lot from Luke. Second thing, second theme, is Nicholas. Now, who was he anyway? He was a pretty obscure bishop somewhere in the Near East, where we now know is called Turkey. And it's right, his city was right on the Mediterranean. So legend has it, we don't know much about him, 3rd century, year 300 something. He was probably at the Council of Nicaea. So he probably helped write the words of the Nicene Creed we're going to say in a few minutes. And he was a bridge figure. In the first part of his ministry, Christians were persecuted. And we know that he was tortured at one point, but not killed. Then came the Edict of Milan in 315. And then Christianity became the law of the land because the Holy Roman Empire's emperor said we should all be Christians. So that was the latter part of Nicholas's time as a bishop. So we know that, or the legend has it, we don't know really much for sure about Nicholas, but the legend has it that he saved some sailors that were drowning. So he is the patron saint of sailors and seafarers. And legend has it, my favorite story as a child growing up, is that there was a poor man with 3 daughters, and the daughters couldn't get married without a dowry, and so he was going to sell them into slavery. And so Nicholas threw a bag of gold coins, first for the oldest daughter, and then the second daughter, and then the third, one at a time, of course. And perhaps chance he threw it through the chimney, and that's why Santa Claus comes down the chimney. In some stories, he threw it through the window, and maybe it was even coins in the stocking, who knows. But in the Middle Ages, Nicholas became a very popular saint in Europe. Patron saint of children, seafarers, sailors. There are, I think, 400 churches of St. Nicholas in England, because England, of course, is an island. Seafarers kind of like some guy that watches out for seafarers. More so than there are for St. George, the patron saint of England. He's also the patron saint of Russia, and was very popular for the Dutch, and they called him Santa Claus, which when they came to New Amsterdam, now New York, became Santa Claus. So today is the feast day of the precursor to Santa Claus, and you'll be hearing a lot about Santa Claus, I'm sure, in the next few weeks. So now you know where it comes from. Lastly is, what's this all about for us today in 2015? The theme running through all the readings is respect. It's righteousness. It's right relationships. Right relationships, first of all, with yourself, because you can't have a right relationship with anyone else before you have a right relationship with yourself. So first of all, right relationships with yourself. And then with God, and then with others. Others being both human and the planet. The world as a whole is not doing too well with righteousness of late. In the last couple of weeks, we've had 3 terrorist attacks. We've had the Paris explosions, we've had Colorado, and most recently, we've had California. And while California was going on, we had an environmental summit in Paris talking about global warming and how we take care of our planet. Righteousness, right relationships. Every single major world religion has something in their document that says something akin to treat one another as you would like to be treated. No religion says kill innocent people. But that's what we've seen happen. People with a total disregard for human life and the people that were killed. I'm told on the news that a policeman said to the people as he led them out of the building in California, "Don't worry, you'll be okay. I'll take the bullet first." And it's terrible when military fighters and police get killed. It's terrible. My son works in Secret Service, actually. And I know he'll take the bullet first. But when it's innocent people, when it's children, it's all that much worse. A total disregard for human life and for righteousness and right relationships. So what do we do about it? Well, I think all we can do is every day treat other people around us, near and far, as we would want to be treated in righteousness. I was a pastor upstate New York, near the Iroquois, what was once Iroquois land. And the Iroquois nation has a belief that every decision you make, small and large, today and tomorrow, you should consider its impact on the next 7 generations. Not just the people around you, but the next 7 generations. That takes in the global warming, doesn't it? So, my challenge to you this second Sunday of Advent is to think of your decisions. Think of the impact of your decisions, the people around you and the people far away, today, tomorrow, and for the next 7 generations.